At first glance, everything looked normal, a typical family, familiar friends, nothing out of the ordinary to suggest what was coming. But beneath the surface of those polite smiles were unspoken ultimatums. Behind the raised glasses and polite chatter, betrayal quietly brewed. And hidden within the casual, "Don't be mad, just listen," was a perfectly laid trap. It all unraveled one evening, the moment that shattered the illusions. The mask slipped, the charade ended, and someone was destined to be left behind. But who would it be? The one who betrayed, or the one who stayed silent too long? Hi there, and welcome. I'm really glad you've tuned into my channel. If this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with someone. It truly helps more than you know. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I read every single one. Now, let's begin. I was sitting in complete silence, staring into the void like someone had just shut off the world around me. You're probably wondering what could have left me so stunned. My wife, Julie, had just looked me square in the eyes and, as casually as if she were asking what we were having for dinner, said she wanted a week to sleep with other men. I'm Matthew. And the worst part? I saw it coming. Deep down, I had known something was off. But hearing those words actually leave her mouth hit me in a way I wasn't prepared for. I had to pause, breathe, keep myself from losing it right there. Let me take you back a bit. I've never claimed to be a genius. I know that about myself and I've made peace with it. This entire mess began about a week ago at a barbecue my sister, Brunilla, was hosting. There were probably 15 couples crammed into her backyard, drinks flowing, people laughing, the kind of afternoon that usually ends in harmless memories. Until someone suggested truth or dare. Brunilla started it off by daring her husband, Thomas, to give Kimberly a foot massage. Her husband, John, laughed and warned Thomas to scrub his hands afterward, said Kimberly's feet were a health hazard. Everyone cracked up. Thomas played along, chuckling as he rubbed her feet. Then, casually as ever, Brunilla leaned toward Kimberly and asked how their cuckolding experiment was going. A few of us nearly choked on our drinks. I was one of them. But John just picked it up like it was casual conversation, said Kimberly was dating 3 different guys and might still have room for more. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Every part of me wanted to drag John aside and ask what the hell he was thinking. Maybe even knock some sense into him. But then I caught Julie's stare, that sharp, icy look that could freeze boiling water, and remembered I was a guest. Instead, I grabbed another beer and tried to drown the urge. Where was Captain Morgan when I needed him? Just when I thought I'd heard everything, John went into vivid detail. He talked for a solid 10 minutes about how thrilling it was to watch his wife be shared by other men. I couldn't take it anymore. I excused myself, slipped into the bathroom, locked the door, and stood there whispering to myself like a lunatic, trying not to have a full-blown meltdown that everyone could hear. When I finally calmed down and cracked open the door, Brunilla was waiting, arms crossed, wearing that look she'd mastered since we were kids, the one that screamed disappointment. Like I had just ruined her little event. "What's your problem?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. She accused me of being judgmental. Judgmental? I hadn't even opened my mouth. I'd stayed quiet, just like Julie had asked me to. But then Brunilla launched into a ridiculous speech about how John letting Kimberly sleep around was actually proof of love. That it was making their marriage stronger. I couldn't stay silent anymore. How in God's name does letting your spouse hook up with other people strengthen a marriage? I asked. She looked at me like I'd just kicked her dog. As her older brother, I guess she expected me to understand. Truth is, half the time I don't even understand Julie, and we've been married for over a decade. "Matthew, you've got to open your mind to new experiences," she said. So I turned the question back on her. "And what about Thomas? Is he on board with this little lifestyle upgrade?" She dodged it, naturally, and went off on some unrelated rant about what men owe their wives after cheating. I pressed again. Is Thomas involved or not? Finally, she admitted she hadn't even brought it up with him yet. She was waiting for John to ease the rest of us into the idea. For the first time in my life, I wanted to slap my own sister. Vernilla, you've absolutely lost it, I told her. If you ask Thomas and he agrees, fine. I'll watch your kids while you go out on your little adventures. Hell, I'll even wax your car. But don't ever, and I mean ever, think you're getting alone time with my wife again. Then I walked back outside. John was standing with Kimberly, Julie, and a few of the other wives. They were giggling like schoolgirls plotting a brunch date. The guys were all huddled near the grill, waiting for me. Thomas asked what I thought about the whole situation. I didn't hold back. Thomas, if Julie ever tries something like that, I'll be out the door before you even scratch your left nut. I don't care what fantasy is trending, if I find out she's cheated, in the past or now or even considering it, she'll be served divorce papers before her boyfriend zips up his jeans. John can live however he wants. I want no part of it. After that little explosion, Julie came over and said it was time to leave. We said our polite goodbyes and headed to the car. The moment we pulled out of the driveway, with a 45-minute ride ahead, Julie turned to me and said, "You shouldn't judge a lifestyle you haven't experienced." I had to decide, start this war now, or wait until we were back under the same roof. Like I said, I'm not the bravest guy. I kept my mouth shut. The entire drive home, she kept talking about John like he was some kind of prophet. I wanted to scream, if he's so amazing, why don't you go be with him? We finally pulled into the driveway. She reached over, hand sliding across my thigh. I thought to myself, all right, let's play along. If I keep this up, I might even get lucky again in the morning. And truth be told, that night was unforgettable. No complaints there. But then came the twist. Julie flipped the script. For the next 7 days, it felt like we'd hit a second honeymoon phase, non-stop affection, endless passion, easily twice a day. She was doting, playful, fully engaged. I started thinking maybe things were actually turning around. But on the 8th day, something changed. She walked into the room with that overly careful tone, the one she used when she was trying to soften a blow. Her words came slowly, like they'd been practiced. "Matthew, can we talk? Just, please don't get upset." I smiled. "After the week we've had? Honestly, you could ask for anything right now and I'd probably go along with it." She hesitated but continued, her voice gentle. "I love you. I love you more today than ever. But maybe it's time we added a little spark to our relationship, something new." Right then, my gut tightened. The mental alarm bells were going off like crazy. She held up her hand. "Just, hear me out. Please. You always shut me down before I can even explain." "Fair enough," I said. "Go ahead. Say everything you need to. I'll still say no." That's when she dropped the bomb. If I truly loved her, if I really, deeply loved her, I would be willing to let her explore, with other men. For just 1 week, she said. She wanted me to agree to let her do whatever she wanted, while I stood by and played the part of the understanding, supportive husband. She leaned in with the full performance, big glassy eyes, lips trembling, voice cracking, the whole damsel in distress routine. If she was hoping to melt my heart, she missed the mark. "Julie," I said calmly, "I love you. I'd do almost anything to make you happy. I want a life with you, growing old, raising kids, the whole package. But this?" I shook my head. "This insanity? Not in this lifetime. If you ever bring this up again, I swear I'll set fire to this place and disappear into the Canadian woods. You want a cuckold? Go buy a parrot." Then I stood up and walked out of the house. My feet carried me straight to Angel's, the local sports bar where they know my name and never ask questions. Clark, the bartender, was already sliding me a menu. "Clark," I said, "start me a tab. 1 beer. One Long Island. And keep 'em coming. A few drinks in, just as I was starting to lose the tension in my shoulders, in walked the last two people I wanted to see, John and Thomas. They sat down on either side of me like bodyguards, both wearing expressions that could cut glass. John leaned in close. "Matthew. What the hell was that at the barbecue? You almost ruined everything. We had that night planned for weeks." I must have looked completely clueless, because Thomas clapped me on the back like a coach explaining a play to a rookie. "Just listen. You need to understand what's really going on." And then they laid it out. Turns out John and Thomas had been secretly recording Kimberly and her side flings. John had gone along with her open relationship nonsense not because he wanted to, but because he was laying the groundwork for a legal counterstrike. His lawyer had told him the truth. In Texas, infidelity still matters in court. Kimberly and her latest boy toy had been plotting something shady, trying to coerce John into a setup, a threesome, so she could claim everything was mutual and consensual. But John wasn't taking the bait. His plan? Let her dig her own grave. Capture enough evidence to show she was the one crossing the line while he kept his hands clean. That very night, as we sipped our drinks, the papers were being served. John had agreed to let her keep the house, the car, even access to some joint accounts. I couldn't help asking, why the hell give her anything after what she pulled? John just gave me that smirk, the kind he saves for checkmates. "The house," he said. "It's a financial time bomb. It's got 2, maybe 3 mortgages on it. The bank's going to repossess it before winter. The car's leased, we haven't made a payment in 7 months. My paycheck's been going to my mom's account this whole time. Far as the IRS or Kimberly's concerned, I've been supporting her. She's been funneling it offshore." He shrugged. "My mom told me from the beginning, Kimberly was garbage. Should have listened." We kept drinking. At some point, I lost track of time and eventually, I needed a ride. I think I made it back home around 3 a.m., but don't hold me to that. I collapsed in the garden bed before I even reached the porch. Julie heard the commotion and came out to find me half buried in her rose bushes. She gave me a full lecture the second I stirred, then followed it up with a bucket of cold water, and the dog licking my face like it was a rescue mission. Just to drive her point home, she soaked my favorite recliner for good measure. "Who shoved a broomstick up your spine?" I muttered. She ignored that. Narrowing her eyes, she asked, "Matthew, did you know?" I blinked. "Know what?" "Kimberly got divorce papers and an eviction notice last night." I grunted. "Good. Now she's got a clear runway to go sleep with every guy she couldn't fit into her schedule before." Julie's eyes narrowed. "So you did know?" "No," I said. "I ran into John and Thomas by accident." "Swear on it." Then I asked, "So what's the drama queen up to now?" Julie took a deep breath, then gave me that look, the one that's part sympathy, part guilt trip. "Matthew, she needs a place to stay. Just for a few days. She's going through a really hard time." I sighed. "Fine. But I don't know how she and Spike are going to fit in the doghouse together." Julie didn't find that funny. "That's not a joke. She's our friend. She needs compassion." I mumbled, "She needs an orthopedic surgeon to bolt her knees shut." Still, I gave in. Kimberly moved into the guest room. I called John first, just to be sure. He didn't care. Said she could rot in a ditch for all he cared. She lasted less than a week. One night, she and Julie were out back drinking wine when suddenly I heard a loud crash and shrieking. Julie burst into the house, fuming. "Matthew! Get this shameless witch out of my house." She turned to Kimberly like a judge handing down a life sentence. "I cannot believe I let you in here. Pack up your garbage and leave. Now." Once everything settled and I put out the metaphorical fires, something occurred to me. A lot of women are surprisingly open to the idea of sharing a man, just as long as it's not their man. Funny how that works. So, that wraps up this wild tale. What's your take on it? Drop a comment down below. And if you enjoyed this story, check out the other content on the channel. Until next time, take care and see you in the next one.